It's Michael. It's Aslan. It's May. Where's Destin Hill? Okay. We'll talk about that another time, maybe a few weeks from now, hopefully. Thanks for being here, though. It's warchant.com, recruiting talk with Michael Langston. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You'll be alerted about this stuff first and foremost. But this stuff, first and foremost, goes over on warchant.com's premium recruiting board, where you can find Michael all the time, all hours of the day. You should check that out for sure. What should they do before we get started here, Michael?
Oh, absolutely. Hit the like button. That helps us promote certainly these informative videos. I do, Corey does, Ira, which by the way had a phenomenal breakdown of the scholarships the other day. We want you to promote these. Help us hit the like button because that helps promote a lot of these things, so we can do it more and more and more for you guys.
Let's get to it, Michael. The portal is what everybody wants to talk about, and it was a safety a few days ago, but now receiver seems to really be heating up because the folks that are watching this probably know more about recruiting than I do, Michael, but I thought that receiver was probably way down on their wish list, but I guess sometimes you have to look at the best available, and there's some really good available wide receivers, and apparently Florida State's got mutual interest with some of them.
Yeah, and I think Ira touched on it the other day on the scholarship breakdown. He said, they lost a productive receiver in Micah Pittman in a starter last year. So you have a lot of talented guys, but you got that slot where you can fill in with a productive guy. And Keon Coleman out of Michigan State is one that I think fits all those categories. He's a different player though into Micah. He's more of a high point guy, high point the ball guy. Throw it anywhere, he's going to go get it. Really nice route runner, knows how to use his physicality to get separation. So he would be a huge addition for FSU, and certainly would fill that void. And he's officially visiting this weekend to FSU. So certainly they've been on this. If you go to the PRB, I give a full breakdown, kind of how this came about. Did that earlier today, but I kind of hinted to people that hey, it's coming as far as a visit. But yeah, he's a guy they've had previous relationship with. He's from Louisiana, so I'm sure he has ties with Coach Johnson and maybe even Coach Sertain. But certainly a guy they previously recruited, and one that they certainly covet. Yeah, the receiver position is not the most highest need, but when you have a chance to add in a hole where there's a you have a chance for elite playmaker, I think certainly Keon fits that category.
Really good sign, I guess, as well. The fact, Michael, that they have a previous relationship with him, having recruited him before, that kind of gets him a little bit of a leg up, maybe over an in-home or in-state favorite LSU.
I'm sure LSU, also has a relationship too, but having a relationship with him and I think getting the first visit tells you a lot about how hard FSU is recruiting him and how much it's a priority to Keon to check them out right away. So there's no other plans that I know of as far as visiting. So I think it's a good start, but they can really certainly nail it down. Visits through Friday through Sunday, like most visits for that are extended visits. So certainly they have a chance to really lay it on, and certainly they have everything that I think Keon covets, which is a talented quarterback, a veteran quarterback, returning an explosive offense, one of the most explosive offenses that can both pass the ball a lot and also they're very effective running the ball. So I think that's very attractive to Keon, and I think he's always liked FSU a good amount. I think just at that time in 2021 class, there was a transition period. So I think now that the product is really good for FSU, it's a very enticing program. And I think he wants to be a part of a place that it certainly has an explosive offense. And I think FSU, without question, checks off that box.
Kind of cool that as we look at the On3 transfer portal rankings for best available wide receiver, Keon Coleman's number 3, and Florida State's in the mix for another one of the guys on that list too. So things looking pretty good for the good guys, eh?
Yeah. And the other guy they're involved with is Kari Franklin. He's a guy that's from UTSA, very productive, probably the most productive guy on that list. When you look at him, he had really big games against Houston and Texas a year ago. I think he had around 100 yards and a touchdown against Texas, which is very impressive. And that's a pretty good team, and Houston's notoriously good. So I think he's certainly a guy they communicate with. There hasn't been an offer or extended, but their communication has been pretty consistent. So that's another guy I'm keeping an eye on with FSU. I think West Coast teams I hear the most buzz about them with like USC and maybe Oregon or somebody like that. But certainly FSU is very much in the mix with Zachary Franklin.
Look at those stats. All right, you mentioned this weekend, Keon being in town. Is he going to overlap with another coveted prospect on Florida State's board on the other side of the football?
He will overlap, but he'll be at a different position in safety. Jaylen Key from my alma mater played at Godby High School. He's certainly very familiar. Our Matt had a great story on Jaylen on the front page. It's out there where people can kind of read. He's very tight with both Corey Fuller and Adam Fuller. No relation, in case you're wondering. But um, they've done a great job recruiting him. Certainly, development is a big deal, but also just how comfortable and fit he sees the best fit of how he fits as a player into each school. So I think that's a big deal, and I think FSU has a really good chance. Certainly, there's an advantage of if FSU can show like there is a major need, they have to add a safety. It's not about if they're going to add one. I mean, they're going to add somebody, and certainly this is the most coveted guy, local kid, originally from Quincy, but played at Gaston County, then transferred over to Godby when Corey Fuller moved over to Godby as the head coach. So certainly a lot of familiarity, a lot of certainly talent that they covet. That kind of he checks off all the things I mentioned. That kind of what they look for at safety. They want a NFL type of player or a productive player that could play in the league, or a guy that certainly upgrades that safety group they have. They have experience there, but they have a lot of young guys too. So they need somebody that's a you jump right in, put him in there, and he's productive. That would help the rest of that group. So I think it's Jaylen's a major target as far as visiting this weekend. Both of them actually are, but I think even more so with Jaylen with the position, because that's a position that's number one that they need to add.
It's funny how you talked about, Keon coming to Florida State, Tallahassee first, and then obviously, Jaylen Key is going to be really busy. He's got like Florida State like smack dab in the middle, and I feel like a local guy. I wish they certainly could have either opened with him or closed with him, because I feel like you either open with him and he's like, all right, man, I do want to be here, I'm done, or you get the last shot on. But he's kind of sandwiched there between Alabama, Ole Miss, and then he's going to head out to Ohio State and I think Oregon as well next week.
That's potentially, but those things can change as far as visits, because Alabama and Ole Miss and Florida State are the teams I've heard the most frequently with him. I haven't heard as much about those other schools. He might be, hey, I got the three I like. I might be ready to make a decision after these three I visit. So those visits plans can change, but right now, yeah, that's the plan. So technically, if everything clicks, this could be his last visit, and you get the last one. But we'll see how it goes. But there's no question, he's extremely excited about this visit. I think he showed that. You could kind of feel that in his comments with Matt when he talked with him. There's certainly a connection personally, and I think he really, without meeting him yet, I think there's also a positive connection that you want to see and want to hear the way he talks about Norvell. So I think they got a great opportunity, and certainly this is a guy that's certainly attainable, and they just got to finish it off with a really good visit, and certainly it's a big position. Another position I mentioned on the PRB today is I think it's going to rev up a little bit more next week. Is the linebacker position. I covered a couple of names. People can read on the PRB of some of those names I'm looking at, but I think there could be a visit the following weekend with the linebacker. So I think they're still working on that, but I think they would like to add some depth with their linebacker crew. As I mentioned in our chat a while back, I think what they need the most is probably a young guy, but one that has multiple years that can come in there and help with the reps this year, and then next year maybe battle for a starting spot or very high playing time.
What about the kid from Florida? They went to
Yeah,
Miami. They go then to Coral Gables. Will they go to Gainesville and grab somebody?
I don't know. There's a defensive end on there, Antoine Powell Ryland. That's the one that I've heard frequently throughout the week. Edge rusher is another one that I'm waiting on a few calls. My phone is nonstop. I have to keep it charged every 10 minutes because I'm checking on stuff. So I'm waiting to hear on some edge guys. Certainly Antoine's one of the guys that I'm waiting to hear from. So that's one that there is contact, there is communication. As far as visits or offers, I have not heard that yet, but that's a guy that they've certainly are in the mix for, that they're interested in. They're kicking the tires, seeing what's out there, see if this fits, see if the fit's there. But certainly a productive guy that, for Florida, that would add into kind of what FSU's looking for, because you have Peyton and you have Verse, and then you have Gilbert as well. But then you need some guys that can come in there and give you depth, and a guy that can get the pass rusher. And I think this kid Antoine would certainly fit the bill with that. So we'll have to see how that develops with that relationship.
Folks, the transfer portal is a living, breathing organism. I'm not going to tell you when Michael and I have hung out here and done this video, but you need to get over to warchant.com to get the very latest on what's going on, because who knows how dated this might be when it finally hits your eyeballs and your ears. But Michael's got you totally updated. I almost feel bad all the stuff that we gave away, but there's more that's in Michael's running thread over
Yeah.
at the PRB that you folks can hop on. But obviously, huge news with Keon Coleman being on the radar, as well as Jaylen Key's confirmation for him coming in on a visit here. So, and I like how you said that, Michael, too, because Ohio State, Oregon sound maybe a little bit different than Alabama, Ole Miss, Florida State in terms of where you want to be geographically. So maybe this kind of is Florida State kind of does get the last crack, because probably really liked Alabama and Ole Miss. If he comes to Florida State and sees what he really likes, then maybe he's like, all right, I'm done. I'm coming back home. So we can only
Yeah,
hope.
and he might at the very least he'll have his mind up. Hey, I these are the three teams I feel comfortable with. Now I got to pick the best one out of that group. So you at least have the last crack, and certainly you've done your stuff with Keon. I think that's one that's ever since he's been in the portal that's been developing. I started getting hint of a visit happening by Sunday night, and kind of explain the situation on the PRB. I'm not going to get everything away. That's for our members, but that's kind of been building. So a lot of this is not just last minute. I mean, these guys, they put some time and they do all of research when it comes to this stuff. There's a lot of fit stuff that this staff is really keen and picky on. That maybe other schools aren't as much as FSU. I mean, culture fit, chemistry. That's the kind of that. There's a lot more than just talent. Like this guy's good, because everyone asks me every day, like when a 4 or 5 star jumps in, is like, are they going after this guy? So there's a lot of background verification checking. Is this guy a Seminole? Is this a guy that's going to help our other guys? So I think people need to remember that it's more than just the skill.
Well said. All right, go to the PRB, everybody. Michael's going there right now. You're not going to sleep, right, Michael? You're just going to stay up just for the next.
I stay up as long as I need to, but it's nonstop. I mean, the portal is nonstop. And for those that don't know, just before I close it out, you only have to have your name in by April 30th. You don't have to decide by April 30th. So I think that's a thing that people get confused about. So I think they have till June or July or in the summer to make a decision. So keep that in mind, guys. It's going to be going on. It's going to be very active in June. I'm going to be very busy. Me and Matt are both going to be very busy. So if we have anything new, I'll certainly chime in on the PRB and let you guys know.
All right, that's a wrap for Michael and myself. Hit the thumbs up on the way. I would appreciate it. Thanks, Michael.
You got it.